almost 2 decades in national politics, Angela Merkel announced on Monday she was stepping down as party leader of the Christian Democratic Union, adding she won't run for Chancellor for a 5th time. Merkel's decision comes on the heels of her party's latest disappointing performance in regional elections.
The figures that came in overnight from the Hesse election are wholly disappointing and bitter. Politically, it can no longer be business as usual for us after this result in Hesse, after the result in Bavaria, after the conflicts between the CDU and the CSU in the summer, and after all the difficulties in forming a government coalition as the previous attempts to form one between the CDU, CSU, FDP and the Green Party all fell through.
Angela Merkel began her political career after the fall of the Berlin Wall, joining the CDU in 1989. 10 years later, she became the party's Secretary General and then its leader. In 2005, Merkel made history by becoming Germany's first female Chancellor. Since then, she's been re-elected a further 3 times. But over the last few years, her popularity has taken a hit.
Misery, war, oppression, political oppression, we have a responsibility to help them based on the Geneva Convention for Refugees, based on our asylum policy and Article 1 of our constitutional law, whether we want to or not.
Measured along political rationality, this move by Angela Merkel is not surprising at all, because her party was losing confidence among the electorate, and the reason, and so to speak, the burden of this party was Angela Merkel herself, so it was quite rational for her to leave office as party chairman. But nevertheless, whenever something important happens, you usually are surprised by it happening right now, and this is why it was really surprising that Angela Merkel so quickly has drawn the consequences out of the disastrous electoral defeats during the last state elections in Bavaria and in Hesse.
15 civilians have been killed by a US-led airstrike on Syria, according to local media. Women and children are reportedly most of the victims in the city of Hajin, Deir ez-Zor province, in the east of the country. It's far from the first time that the coalition stands accused of killing civilians. Last month, Damascus called for a UN probe after reporting over 60 civilians killed in a US raid on 2 villages in the same Deir ez-Zor province. We sent a request for comment on the allegations about the latest strike to the US-led coalition. It told us that terrorists were killed and critical facilities were destroyed, adding that a battlefield assessment is now underway. You've been watching The Weekly here on RT International. I'll be back with more updates in 30 minutes. But first, time for a documentary, Game of Drones.
Glasses. Direct to your door. Go to Glasses Direct and before you buy, try them on at home for free. And right now, get 2 pairs from £19 with lenses. You should go direct to glassesdirect.co.uk.
Homecomings and goings are so much easier with a Crocodile automatic garage door. Smart in appearance and ingeniously space-saving in operation. Adding style, security, and perhaps even value to your home, it's the perfect combination of design and function. Call Crocodile on 08000 112234 and find out how quick and easy they are to install and improve your family home Crocodile style.
What a trade price that is! wheels to business. What a van, what a van, what a van. Lisa Vanarama van.
When it comes to household cleaning, Shark's lightweight cordless vacuum has technologies you won't find on any other cord-free. DuoClean has 2 brush rolls to deep clean carpets and hard floors, and Flexology helps you reach further. 2 batteries double your runtime, so you can charge while you clean all over your home, your car, anywhere. Flexible cord-free cleaning you can trust. From Shark, the UK's fastest growing vacuum cleaner brand. In store now.
Hello, we're Lendable. We provide personal loans from £1 to £15,000. Pretty flexible. You can find out if you're eligible before you apply. Remarkable. And it won't affect your credit score. When the loan's approved, the money could be with you within the hour. Yep, Swiftable. Apply for your loan now at lendable.co.uk.
Crimson red, my hands and heart bled from paper cuts of exploding shrapnel forced upon a future's head. Children.
कांग्रेसमैन ग्रीसन मुझे अब नीला आसमान अच्छा नहीं लगता मुझे अब बादलों वाला आसमान अच्छा लगता है क्योंकि बादलों में ड्रोन उड़ नहीं सकते और ड्रोन की गैर मौजूदगी में हमारा खौफ कुछ देर के लिए खत्म हो जाता है
You made me kill children. For country? For profit? For yourself? How can you smile?
Killing has become just like a video game. A joystick steers a drone towards a target, and with a simple press of a button, a bomb drops and detonates. The explosive is real, just like the people it falls on. You can bomb villages in Afghanistan or Pakistan from the safety of a bunker in the US.
So, how are you feeling about the trip?
I'm a bit nervous, to be honest with you, because...
Was it three filming days?
Yeah, exactly. So
really
it's
tight.
really important that the relatives of the drone victims manage to get to Islamabad in time, because otherwise we'll get nothing.
Well, yeah.
Since we can't go to the tribal areas anyway because of security reasons.
Yeah, we are plenty of time for your flight.
Thank you.
Have a safe one. Take care.
Thank you.
And I'll get in touch with you from America.
Yeah, and please send me your number. That's the important thing. And then I'll call our producer.
Okay.
And then we'll figure it out.
Cheers, Maria. Good luck. All the best.
Thank you. I'll call you as soon as we like.
Take care. Bye-bye.
To the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, there have been more than 400 drone strikes since 2004, killing around 1,000 innocent civilians. And that's just in Pakistan. Our local contact has taken me to meet a man who narrowly avoided one of those strikes.
मेरा नाम मलक जलालुद्दीन है मैं नार्थ वजीरिस्तान से ताल्लुक़ रखता हूँ और मैं नार्थ वजीरिस्तान में पीस कमेटी का मेंबर आई एम नॉट अ टेररिस्ट बिल्कुल सारा वजीरिस्तान हूँ क्योंकि वजीरिस्तान में उसने छोटे छोटे बच्चों को मार दिया बहुत से स्कूल बंद हो गए क्योंकि छोटे छोटे बच्चे
Waziristan is the mountainous region between Pakistan and Afghanistan, a self-proclaimed but unrecognized state. Populated with disaffected Pashtun tribes, it's been viewed as a Taliban stronghold since 2001. The Pakistani government has so far been unable to regain control of the area. Malik claims to have been personally targeted by at least 4 drone strikes since 2010.
सारे वजीरिस्तानियों को, क्योंकि वजीरिस्तान में उसने छोटे छोटे बच्चों को मार दिया, बहुत से स्कूल बंद हो गए क्योंकि छोटे छोटे बच्चे डरते हैं। वजीरिस्तान में हमारे माओं पर भी हमले हो गए, हमारे जरगे पर भी हमले हुए, क्योंकि वहाँ पर तो मेरा अपना कानून है जो खुद मामले फैसला करते हैं।
Sean Westmoreland is a former drone communications technician. Since leaving the Air Force, he's struggled to come to terms with the role he played in the US drone program.
Yeah, I was sleeping in the back of this truck probably for about a quarter of last year. Well, I was broke and having psychological issues. So, yeah, I had a bed back there, a little space heater, and I was sleeping on top of the mountain. Wasn't getting the help I needed, and I was kind of having a lot of issues back in October, and I had slept at the bridge a couple of nights, and I was seriously planning on jumping, and I decided that I shouldn't do that. I should get help, and I should, probably have somebody else taking care of me for a certain amount of time. There's a member of the community that was nice enough to allow me to basically sublet this place and be the groundskeeper here for about a year. I haven't really had a stable place to stay up until now, but I had gardening knowledge, so when you're in the military, your chief purpose is mostly to destroy things, and I've been dealing with that for a while. So having the ability to work on plants and stuff like that is kind of healing for me. Because I'm going, from using my creative energy to destroy things to creating life.
Well, thank you very much for directions. I look forward to meeting you, Dennis, and hopefully see you.
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
I arranged to meet Dennis Zachlin at the New Mexico State University Flight Center. The center works on integrating unmanned aircraft into regular international airspace, and these people know everything there is to know about drones.
I did 29 years in the United States Navy. Any type of intel is good intel. When you're not chancing a pilot's life, that's even better. Plus, when you think about it, and the future is unmanned. An F-16 can take probably a 15 or a 20 degree turn. The problem is the pilot passes out at 9 or 10 G. So if you take the pilot out, does that make it a better fighter aircraft? Well, sure it does. Because now it turns tighter, it goes faster, it just does a lot of things better. These are excellent tools, and that's what we always say. This isn't a solution, it's a tool.
I flew the Tiger Shark in Afghanistan, or Iraq, and then this aircraft in Afghanistan. So in Iraq, you at least get to go, without leaving the base, you can see, countryside out there.
Yeah.
Without having to worry about getting shot down.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest things is they keep people safe.
Yeah.
There were some operations where, when I was flying, the troops were in contact, they told us to go down and fly as low as we could to try to draw fire.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they were able to get people out.
Yeah.
Because they were concentrating firing at us.
The Movement for Justice is a political party in Pakistan. The Taliban branded its leader, opposition politician Imran Khan, an infidel and even wanted him dead. We met at his home in Islamabad, now under constant armed guard. He is one of Pakistan's most popular politicians, organizing rallies that attract thousands of followers. He doesn't believe the conflict can be solved militarily, neither in Afghanistan nor Pakistan.
I feel that this is a total violation of human rights, killing people by these drones, basically sitting on a screen and eliminating people, dehumanizing them, treating them as if they're from some other planet, not giving them a basic right of proving their innocence. I mean, it violates all norms of justice.
They claim they have intelligence that shows that they're terrorists.
They are bombing villages. There are villages there. There are houses. There are mud houses. They're bombing them. And then they think that a bomb, when it bursts, when it splinters, that the shrapnel knows exactly who's a terrorist and who's a woman and who's a child, who's a grandmother. I mean, there are so many instances of people being killed who had nothing to do with terrorism. And then those who call terrorists, sometimes they claim that they've killed a terrorist and then you see he's alive. So who have they killed?
I received a performance report which was intended for like promotional purposes. It said that I assisted in 2,400 close air support missions and 200 plus enemy kills. We had asked, there were several of us that asked, how many civilians died, and they wouldn't tell us. But if you understand the areas that we're covering, and you were to look at the UNAMA report on the amount of civilian casualties that happened that year, it would be somewhere around 359.
We can understand in a way that, okay, Americans maybe don't see that their actions are in fact fueling more terrorism. But why does the Pakistani government not put more pressure in order to stop this program on its own land?
All they see is dollars, and if you pay them enough dollars, they're willing to allow Americans to bomb their own country, which is an ally of the U.S. Pakistan is a U.S. ally in this war on terror. So it's never happened in history where a country is bombed by its own ally.
Noor Behram is a journalist from North Waziristan. Whenever there is a new drone strike, local people call him so he can document the number of innocent civilians killed.
शमाली वज़ीरिस्तान में वहाँ पर हमने बतौर सहाफ़ी इस तरह काम किया कि जहाँ भी गांव में ड्रोन हमला होता था वहाँ पर हमारा लोकल सोर्सेस होते थे, वो हमें इत्तला देता था या वाकी टाकी से, तो हम फौरी तौर पर उस ड्रोन हमले में पहुँच जाते थे। मैं कोशिश इसलिए ज़्यादा करता था कि मैं वहाँ पर पहुँचता था कि इसमें मैं ये नहीं देखता था कि इसमें अलकायदा कितने मरे हैं।
No matter where you are in the world, the chances are you're being watched. And with the seemingly unstoppable proliferation of drones,
privacy may be a thing of the past. Military drones have resulted in the deaths of thousands of innocent people and can strike anytime, anywhere. Flying at over 10,000 meters in the air, you probably won't have the slightest idea you're being watched. And if they attack, you won't see it coming.
Homecomings and goings are so much easier with a Crocodile automatic garage door. Smart in appearance and ingeniously space-saving in operation. Adding style, security, and perhaps even value to your home, it's the perfect combination of design and function. Call Crocodile on 08000 112234 and find out how quick and easy they are to install and improve your family home Crocodile style.
Spend 2 minutes on Trussell to find out if you're paying too much for your mortgage for free.
Oh, nice.
Well done, Russell.
My name's Neil.
Trussell, the home of home ownership.
Glasses. Direct to your door. Go to glasses.co.uk Direct, and before you buy, try them on at home for free. And right now, get 2 pairs from £19 with lenses. You should go direct to glassesdirect.co.uk.
Feel outside when you're in and inside when you're out with a Crocodile glass veranda. A solid open structure with a glass roof. It's quickly and easily constructed using powder-coated aluminium, so it's maintenance-free and built to last. Call 08000 112200 to find out more about the elegant, bespoke Crocodile glass veranda and improve your family home Crocodile style.
Have you got loads of photos stuck on your phone? I did, till I found out I could print them for free. Now I free print my fridge, I free print the hall, I free print brilliant memories. More than 500 free prints a year for free. You just pay delivery. Download the Free Prints app for iPhone or Android for free at freeprints.com.
What do you think, drum and back or front?
Front. I think we did. Well, maybe in back.
We're going to walk close to the shoulder but on the pavement. It's your choice right now that it's dark, whether you put the mask in front over your face. If you don't feel comfortable, then wear it in the back. That way when we do, we're going to process. We have to turn around and come back this way.
There's a sign there with all the statistics of the number of victims killed in all the different countries where drones have been used, and a sign that says, mothers say no war. So it's not just the fact that these drones are killing up to 9 out of 10 innocent people, it's the fact that they're killing people anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The United States does not have the right to decide who to assassinate in the world.
No.
Sometimes I get frustrated because the most tragic part are the children that get killed.
Yeah.
But sometimes the civilian issue is emphasized too much. And it's just the idea of assassination that's criminal.
Yeah.
This is Code Pink, an organization founded and run by a group of women campaigning to end US wars and militarism. Today they're protesting against Creech Air Base. But of all the people I met, I was keen to talk more to Anne Wright, a former Army colonel and US diplomat.
Creech Drone Base is the only place really in the world where you can see drones taking off and landing. They're the practice vehicles for drone pilots that are just learning to control them, and then we'll start controlling them in Afghanistan or Pakistan, Somalia, Yemen. Who knows really where they will. It's also the base not only for U.S. military pilots and contractors and CIA, but also the British for years have had drone pilots. And if you look way back in there at those facilities, back in there somewhere are the actual control pods where the pilots that are controlling them in Afghanistan and Pakistan for sure. We know that in this midst of thousands of cars that come in every morning and leave, that there are drone pilots that may have just killed somebody in Afghanistan or Pakistan, may have killed a wedding party or whatever.
You don't even know who they killed.
They don't know who,
I mean, I'm out here to protect you, the police, the anti-protesters, everybody. So I just like to know who I'm dealing with and who I'm talking with. We have who I don't even know who I'm talking with. Hi, Toby. How you doing? What are the masks symbolize? I haven't seen the mask before.
You're new on the block.
So you gotta educate me, Toby.
Well, what do you think of when you see white masks?
Well, I think of, first and foremost, I think of those anarchist masks.
Peter.
Maybe they went far
Peter's all the way here from Russia. What do you think when you see the white masks?
I interpret them as like faceless masks, as kind of the faceless victims of the drones.
And I know law enforcement is supposed to arrest criminals. The commander is a criminal. The truth has come out. We're assassinating innocent people. He should be arrested.
That's not for me to arrest the front.
Does anybody else have anything else to raise?
people there, and you've got to wonder what effect such a small process is going to have on other people entering the base and the government.
Karim Khan lives in Waziristan and is another drone victim. His relatives died in one attack.
तो फिर एक जहाज इधर और एक इधर खड़े हो जाते हैं फिजा में और वहाँ से वो मिसाइल दाग देते हैं इधर से भी और इधर से भी बस पूरा घर हो जो भी 2 कमरे हो 3 कमरे हो बिल्कुल मिलीमीटर हो जाते हैं और बंदे भी जो है ना वो टुकड़े टुकड़े हो जाते हैं जल जाते हैं आग लग जाती है बड़ा धमाका होता है तकरीबन 35 किलोमीटर में आप इसकी आवाज़ सुन सकते हैं
Pakistani lawyer Shahzad Akbar defends the rights of drone attack victims. He says the problem is almost never discussed because victims simply have nowhere and nobody to turn to.
Drone strikes have been taking place in mostly North Waziristan and South Waziristan, a tribal area of Pakistan, which is cut off from rest of the country because of many reasons. But to put it very simply, it's a black hole of information.
So this is what's been recovered from Waziristan.
Yeah,
right?
from most of the sites, we actually have pictures of people who have been killed by these missiles as well. So what we did is, like in 2011-12, we did an exhibition.
Very powerful.
So for example, in this village on such and such date, this missile was recovered from a house that killed 6 people, including 3 adults and 1 child, children.
I had nightmares about standing in a village, trying to get the kids to come into some shelter, and they were all just standing out, looking at the drones, and before anybody could really get them to come in, they exploded.
So we're meeting Nick Motton now, who's also an anti-drone activist, and he conducts lectures, goes around the country lecturing about drones. So we should be pulling to his house. So that was expensive in New York. Looks like a drone. Does, yeah, like a drone. Hello, Nick.
Good morning.
Hello, it's Peter. So these are the 4 Hellfires and the 2 bombs, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
These are all laser-guided bombs.
Right.
And missiles.
Okay.
And
yeah.
And the Hellfire missile was made for use against trucks, armor, tanks, and buildings. And so when it's used against people, and then of course this is the camera up here.
Okay.
That is used to target people. The whole message of this to people in other countries is terror. This shows places in Africa where it's known that there are drone bases or drone operations of some kind. And one of the questions was about Ramstein. I think most people in Germany are not in favor of drone war, but the United States has a drone relay information control center in Ramstein, and it seems to be very critical. Information coming from Creech Air Force Drone Control Center in the United States to Ramstein, and then through satellite, the drones might be controlled to attack in Yemen or Afghanistan or Iraq or Somalia. So it seems that Ramstein is very critical node in this.
Should be here for 99.3. You landed on 25. Copy 6, always attacks to park. She's reported. Supply 3, so approach instead of being separate.
about Germany's role, I've come to Cologne to meet Andreas Schuler, a lawyer defending the rights of 3 survivors of a drone strike in Yemen.
Nice to meet you. Complain against the German government, especially they bring forward the use of the Ramstein airbase.
Can you explain to us the legality or illegality of Germany allowing the US to use Ramstein as a relay base?
Yes, we see that the use of drones, of armed drones by the United States, for example in Yemen, is a violation of international law because many people are killed there, many civilians are killed in Yemen, and that's unlawful under international law standards. It's also unlawful under German law standards.
When we go to the castle there we have a beautiful view with the airbase.
Stop Ramstein activist Conny Schmidt is driving us to the airbase. On our way, he told us that the movement has grown dramatically in the few months since it was founded in 2015. The group's first rally in September was one of the biggest protest marches against the American airbase for 20 years.
So many things in English here compared to other areas that I've seen.
Yeah, you're a little bit more American than Germans.
Really?
No, yes. It is not totally true, but
in Kaiserslautern are 80,000 in the town and 30,000 Americans in a special area.
Wow.
We know what happens here. We know that they killed maybe 4,000 people by drones, and they are controlled by Ramstein. I am born in Wiesenbach. It is the neighbor village from Ramstein, and it is my duty to say no to this. I don't know if I will be successful. My success is to do it. Every year 40,000 airplanes are going over my house.
Anti-drone activist Nick Motton says UAVs will soon be capable of making autonomous decisions about who to kill.
Area of South, and there is research that goes on around, as far as we can gather, using digital imaging of people's faces to be put into the computer so that the drone can identify individual people on its own. And the idea there would be, if you have drone pilots who don't want to fly drones, just get rid of the drone pilots and let the drones do the job themselves.
Former drone communications technician Sean Westmoreland, still haunted by nightmares, believes that tomorrow's drones will not be troubled by human conscience.
Machine learning and artificial intelligence and machines designed to make kill decisions, that's a little uncomfortable.
Getting cold and stall protector off. He's airspeed hold on. Correct.
That's a very scary thought right now.
Oh, absolutely. Can you imagine what will happen later on? I mean, we've seen this happen for how many years now? You must wonder, what will it take for them to put an end to it?
Well, especially now we know how much money the arms industry is making from it.
Exactly. And just recently we had, once again, another example in Pakistan, a drone strike, and we had...
Is that the one that killed the guy from Afghanistan?
Exactly,
yeah,
right?
I heard about that one. Yeah.
We had the Pakistani government slamming the US for violating its sovereignty, but we've heard this all before. How many times?
I wonder if it'll ever change.
I find it so incredible that people in the United States accept this as a way of fighting terror. I mean, there should be some proof that they're winning the war.
When history is laid out and more is revealed over time, Obama will be known as the assassination president. Bush was known as the torture president.
आपने बहुत जुल्म किया हमारे बच्चों को बाहर बहनों को मार दिया हमारे 4-5 लाख मदरसानी बच्चों को जेल में मरीज बना दिया तो वास्ते अगर आप कहिए
comings and goings are so much easier with a Crocodile automatic garage door. Smart in appearance and ingeniously space-saving in operation. Adding style, security, and perhaps even value to your home, it's the perfect combination of design and function. Call Crocodile on 08000 112234 and find out how quick and easy they are to install and improve your family home Crocodile style.
Glasses. Direct to your door. Go to Glasses Direct and before you buy, try them on at home for free. And right now, get 2 pairs from £19 with lenses. You should go direct to glassesdirect.co.uk.
When it comes to household cleaning, Shark's lightweight cordless vacuum has technologies you won't find on any other cord-free. DuoClean has 2 brush moves to deep clean carpets and hard floors, and Flexology helps you reach further. 2 batteries double your runtime, so you can charge while you clean all over your home, your car, anywhere. Flexible cord-free cleaning you can trust. From Shark, the UK's fastest growing vacuum cleaner brand. In store now.
Feel outside when you're in and inside when you're out with a Crocodile glass veranda. A solid open structure with a glass roof. It's quickly and easily constructed using powder-coated aluminium, so it's maintenance-free and built to last. Call 08000 112200 to find out more about the elegant, bespoke Crocodile glass veranda and improve your family home Crocodile style.
The new king has arrived. What are the 3 global issues that worry you the most? You're always working, aren't you? How about so? Yeah.
The character's identity.
Oh, so the awful fun with you.
If I finish you fast, that's me my most merciful.
Do you want to be president? Why does Bernie Sanders want to discuss something? I'm Larry King, and you can catch my programs 5 nights a week on RTUK.
Stories that shaped the week on RT. China gets its military ready for war amid trade and territorial disputes and worsening relations with Washington. Donald Trump announces the renewal of all pre-nuclear deal sanctions against Iran, a decision that angers Washington's European allies, who vow to protect their business interests in the Islamic Republic. And we talked to a survivor of Rwanda's genocide as human rights groups call for the reopening of an investigation into the French army's failure to respond to the Cicero Hills massacre. It's the weekly here on RT International with me, Nadira Tudor. That's our roundup of top stories of the last 7 days and the latest up-to-date news. Welcome to the programme. China's president has raised the spectre of a potential conflict after instructing the country's military to be ready for war. But how much of this is merely posturing? Murat Gazdia takes a closer look.
So here's the thing. The Chinese government almost never says anything you wouldn't expect. That's their thing, their gimmick. They're incredibly careful, reserved at least with their tongues. So when the Chinese president orders his military to prepare for war, serious indeed.
He urged the military to concentrate on advancing readiness for war.
The Chinese are preparing for war out loud. How, oh how, did we get to this? Well, Trump, for one. Aside from lambasting the Chinese at every opportunity, his tariffs, his sanctions, his trade war, he's also being very heavy-handed. Congress has just approved a second arms deal with Taiwan in 18 months.
The sales of weapons by the United States to Taiwan damages China's sovereignty and security interests.
Beijing sees China and Taiwan as two parts of a whole, two Chinese entities, same culture, ethnicity, same languages, with two separate governments, communist, capitalist. The end goal is to reunite into one state. There are differences, of course, currently preventing that, and about 100 kilometers of sea that separate the two. And Trump, always a fan of sticking it to the Chinese, he's been floating his warships right between the two Chinas.
We have expressed our concerns to the US side. The Taiwan issue concerns China's sovereignty and territorial integrity and is the most important and sensitive issue in China-US relations.
For starters, how about you express your concerns about these important and sensitive issues to someone who cares a little more? Because that ain't Trump.
Are you worried about any negative reaction? I'm not worried about anything. I don't worry about things.
Hakuna Matata. Must be great never worrying about anything. Unfortunately, others are. There are those in China who believe that America wants Taiwan to declare independence, and the Chinese are preparing for that eventuality, militarily.
We are resolute to defeat any scheme or act of Taiwan independence in any form.
Thing is, the Taiwanese don't really see a point to defending themselves. Taiwan, which recently switched from a conscription to a volunteer army, is having huge trouble recruiting. Even reserve troops are dodging their duty. After all, what's the point? They'd never win.
The government needs to think whether it's necessary to bring conscription back if they think national security matters.
But Taiwan is a minor player in this confrontation. If war does break out, it'll likely be the People's Republic of China slogging it out with the United States rather than Taiwan. And that is a war that Trump really ought to be worried about.
The world is really at a crossroad. The United States has been pushing China around, humiliating China, and imposing unilateral tariffs on the Chinese exports. China does not want to have a trade war with the United States. China does not want to have armed conflict with the United States. But if the United States really wants to impose these things onto China, I think the Chinese people will be fully mobilized behind the Chinese government and the Chinese military.
On Friday, the Trump administration announced that it's reimposing all sanctions against Iran that were lifted as part of the 2015 nuclear deal. The US president took to Twitter to taunt Iran with the news in a post resembling the tagline from the hit TV series Game of Thrones. The sanctions slated to come into effect on Monday follow America's unilateral withdrawal in May from the Iran nuclear agreement. The new sanctions come on top of those already imposed by Washington and focus on oil, penalizing states that refuse to halt crude imports from Iran. The US Secretary of State says the main target is the Iranian government.
These sanctions hit at core areas of Iran's economy. It is aimed at depriving the regime of the revenues that it uses to spread death and destruction around the world.
People on the streets of Tehran, though, told us it's ordinary civilians who will end up bearing the brunt of the sanctions.
Medicines are hard to come by because of sanctions. No doubt, if you are caring for a patient, your life is affected by these sanctions. Sanctions decrease the quality of life as people cannot now obtain things they used to obtain easily before.
I'm a merchant and I essentially cannot trade with businesses outside of Iran anymore. It will take its toll, and we have yet to see to what extent they'll affect ordinary people and merchants.
Every year or every 2 to 3 years, they say new sanctions will be imposed, so people have gotten used to sanctions. But that doesn't mean we accept them and it doesn't hurt. It means we've had them so long, they don't affect us anymore.
they harm the Iranian nation. They have always been there for the past 4 decades, and they've been harming the Iranian nation all along their imposition. That's why many other world states that are under sanctions, like Russia, like many others, they are all against this move, and especially because this new round of sanctions by Washington, it doesn't have the UN support, it doesn't have the support of even the United States' close allies, like the Europeans that have stated their opposition and defiance. China, Turkey, Russia, and many others have defied the U.S. sanctions against Iran. And many are worried in Washington that this could make this sharp tool or weapon blunt and make it, take it off the menu, even for future U.S. administrations, if it goes ineffective.
Despite pressure from the US, the European Union has confirmed the bloc's commitment to the Iran nuclear deal. Brussels also vowed to protect EU companies that do business with Tehran. But despite all the tough talk, Washington may be more flexible than it's letting on.
We ask all nations to isolate Iran's regime as long as its aggression continues.
We do not intend to allow our sanctions to be evaded by Europe or anybody else.
We will work to maintain the framework of the 2015 deal in spite of the American decision by ensuring that our companies can stay in Iran.
Looking at the latest decisions of President Trump, someone could even think, with friends like that, we need enemies.
What do we want to be? Vassals that would obey blindly to what Americans tell them? Or do we want us Europeans to say that we have economic interests and we want to have economic relations with Iran?
We never threaten anyone, but we do not tolerate threats from anyone.
Achieve maximum pressure, but we don't want to harm friends and allies.
In fact, after the Americans wanted and they were aiming for zero oil export for Iran, and they are now giving to 8 countries the exemptions for Iran oil import, and that indicates that they have understood that the maximum pressure on Iran cannot be fulfilled, and now they are changing that maximum pressure to enough pressure. And whether these strategy will succeed or not, that's also under question, because they cannot exert the needed pressure they think against Iran, because now there is difference in American cabinet and administration on the disconnecting Iran from the international SWIFT system, which enables the transaction messaging, and that can be a tough action against Iran economically, but that's the area of difference inside the United States between Donald Trump and his officials in the cabinet.
French human rights groups are calling for an investigation into the 1994 Rwandan genocide to be reopened. That's after the release of a video which appears to show a senior French military officer being informed about a massacre taking place in an area known as the Bessasaru Hills, yet the army failed to intervene.
Now, human rights activists are demanding answers. One leader of the organization's survey is a plaintiff in the case. She says it was too premature to close the case, while other lawyers are accusing France in direct complicity in the genocide.
Lines of inquiry were not sufficiently followed up to allow investigators to determine France's military and political responsibility.
French military authorities were aware that from the afternoon of 27th of June onwards, civilians were being killed.
The survivors opened the case 13 years ago, although back in July it was scrapped due to lack of evidence and lack of convictions. But survivors of the massacre claim they asked the French military for help on June 27, 1994. But the military only came 3 days later, already after hundreds of people were killed in the massacre. And the allegation now is that the French government actually knew what was going on and specifically decided not to intervene. The genocide was committed mainly by the Hutu government and its backers against the ethnic minority Tutsi tribe. Allegations of the French government's support for the Hutus, who carried out most of the slaughter in the genocide, have been rough on the French government's relations with the Rwandan government for years. But the French, although they admit that they've made mistakes, they say they have no complicity in the genocide that took place there.
We asked one survivor of the massacre if she was surprised by the newly found video.
No, the video doesn't surprise me. I was very happy that Mediapart published the truth. We, the survivors, have known this for a long time, but it's important that the French people knew what happened back in 1994, when the military was there. I only know that François Hollande promised to declassify the archives, but it didn't work out. Everything he published was already known. The only thing I have to add is that the French people have to know the truth.
An English seaside village has found itself getting some unwanted attention in the US midterm election campaign. Jaywick Sands is known locally as one of the UK's most economically challenged areas, but images of its dilapidated streets have appeared on a Republican Party poster. Polly Boyko explains why.
What links this Essex seaside town to the upcoming US midterm elections? An insensitive political advert, that's what. Locals here in Jaywick Sands in Essex have been left fuming after a pro-Trump Republican candidate for the Senate for the state of Illinois used a photograph of Jaywick Sands on his social media feed as an anti-advertisement. So the caption next to the photograph read, "Only you can stop this from becoming a reality." But the problem is, the picture wasn't quite reality. The image of Jaywick Sands that he used was taken several years ago, and since then, the local authorities have made quite a few improvements to the local area. So the locals here are rather cross.
You go to the trailer parks in America, and then you come to a caravan park in Jaywick, and you'll see the difference. A lot cleaner in Jaywick than what it is in America. We don't live in riffraff around here. There ain't no ghettos here like there is in America.
Well, yeah, it's just like saying we're going to have a bit of wind coming, use an old photo of Africa, desert somewhere, and say, look, your town's going to look like this, isn't it?
Bad news sells, good news it doesn't. And that's, no, he shouldn't have used that. But he isn't going to put a good picture on, is it?
We got a bit of hostility with the camera down there. Is it kind of, do you guys feel a bit kind of burned by the negative press attention that you guys have had?
Yes. Because of the TV show that happened way before, yeah. Now anyone that comes down here with a TV camera and sticks it in people's faces, yeah, it's just, you know, get out. You know, people don't like it. They don't like it.
Well, the offending advert has now been removed, and Dr. Nick Stella's spokesperson has issued an apology, or half an apology.
Our intent was never to smear the town in the photo, not known to us as Jaywick Sands in Essex. We never used the name. For us, it was an example of a town overburdened by poor governance, which is exactly what we in our district are seeking to prevent at every level.
Back in 2010 and 2015, the government named the area as the most deprived in England. In fact, I was here to report on it at the time.
The town was thought up as a holiday resort for city dwellers back in the 1920s. These are all meant to be summer houses, but because rents were so cheap, people started living here all year round. Some parts of the town lack tarmac roads, street lighting, or even pavements. The last few shops that were here have been boarded up. Unemployment is rife in the town. In fact, 62% of the people that live here depend on welfare payments.
Well, the town isn't exactly a luxury seaside resort. It is still a deprived area, and even though local authorities have been keen to stress that they have invested in new roads and new drainage systems, it could use more money. There is some hesitation when you talk to the locals as well. They don't want to talk to the cameras. They've been burned before by bad press, and they're keen to turn the image of the town around. Some concede that they could definitely use more investment, but it's not up to politicians in America to judge their hometown. One interesting suggestion came from the director of a documentary about Jaywick. She said that Dr. Nick Stella should come over here and she could show him around the town, and so he can see for himself all the improvements that have been made. I get the sense that the locals here would have one or two things to say to him.
Right after the break, a frozen moment in time from the Second World War is uncovered after cameras found in a trench in Russia still containing its original film.
When it comes to household cleaning, Shark's lightweight cordless vacuum has technologies you won't find on any other cord-free. DuoClean has 2 brushfuls to deep clean carpets and hard floors, and Flexology helps you reach further. 2 batteries double your runtime, so you can charge while you clean all over your home, your car, anywhere. Flexible cord-free cleaning you can trust. From Shark, the UK's fastest growing vacuum cleaner brand. In store now.
Homecomings and goings are so much easier with a Crocodile automatic garage door. Smart in appearance and ingeniously space-saving in operation. Adding style, security, and perhaps even value to your home, it's the perfect combination of design and function. Call Crocodile on 08000 112234 and find out how quick and easy they are to install and improve your family home Crocodile style.
Welcome back to the programme. The US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces, which are mostly made up of Kurdish troops, have announced a temporary halt to operations against Islamic State. It comes as several Kurdish villages were attacked by Turkey near its border with Syria. The US has been supporting Kurdish forces in the region. Washington considers them to be effective fighters against ISIL. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of Syria, ISIL terrorists have gained ground close to the border with Iraq, killing over 40 US-backed fighters during an offensive there. And the group's resurgence goes against what many have been led to believe, as Igor Zhdanov explains.
From all the boasting, you may have gotten the idea that Islamic State in Syria is so 2016.
The coalition to defeat ISIS has liberated very close to 100% of the territory.
We've done a great job with ISIS. We have just absolutely decimated ISIS.
But the latest carnage is a clear signal. The terrorists are not ready to buckle just yet. They've squeezed every drop of profit from the victory they've been craving for so long, from obvious territorial gains to a massive PR push. They filmed their operation and spoils of war from all thinkable angles, it seems. Even with reinforcements, America's proxy ground force, the Kurds, couldn't hold off the surprise onslaught.
Hard-fighting casualties down there, both sides, but we will continue to go after them in the weeks ahead.
ISIL's latest propaganda video even includes a not-so-subtle threat, a skyline view of a government-controlled town. But hold on, just how much of a surprise was this latest ISIL attack, really? Sure, they moved in under the cover of a sandstorm, but it's not like the Kurds, which are in charge of eastern Syria, didn't know ISIL was on their porch. They have been fighting terrorists in the area for a whole year, but despite their best efforts, to little success. And that could be due to the fact that their effort has been dwindling gradually. Apart from ISIL, the Kurdish fighters have been focusing on skirmishes with the Syrian army and repelling the Turkish operation against them in the north. This plays into the jihadists' hands perfectly, since Assad's forces are not going anywhere, and neither is Turkey, as President Erdogan teased the next phase of what he calls an anti-terror operation in Syria.
We have started active intervention operations against the terror organization in the last couple of days. We will soon come down hard on the terror organization with more extensive and effective operations.
The United States also has been convincing the world it's hell-bent on cleansing Syria of terrorists. Yet, years on, it's their area of responsibility where ISIL strikes, well, with its bloodiest attack in months. And I wonder, could it be because American troops are in fact miles away from all the action?
We don't have a counter-Iranian mission here. We have a defeat ISIS mission.
There are many players in the Syrian conflict, and all of them are hungry for a geopolitical bounty in Syria. And writing off ISIL early means risking another wave of terrorist resurgence.
Earlier we talked with Baroness Caroline Cox. She's a member of the UK House of Lords and has been heavily criticised over her stance on Syria. She thinks the media is turning a blind eye to many things happening in the war-ravaged country.
I've had very vicious articles about me in well-known newspapers like the London Times. There is a big media onslaught. I think it is very biased indeed, and it really does not give an equal representation of the horrific atrocities perpetrated by the jihadists. But it's not going to stop me. People just say, thank you so much for putting the alternative point of view. We knew we were not getting all the truth from the BBC. We knew there was more to it than that. And thank you for telling us the other side of the story. And I'm sorry to say that the UK and Saudi Arabia, big time, have been supporting the jihadists. I've managed to find out by questions in Parliament that the British government has used at least £200 million of taxpayers' money to support jihadist-related groups. And the truth must come out for us to have a democratic and open discussion. And I've said in the Houses of Parliament and the House of Lords that I think Russia's been doing the right thing in Syria. Russia's been helping the Syrian army to get rid of the jihadists. That must be the priority, and I really respect Russia for doing that.
A camera dating back to the Second World War has been recovered from a trench in southern Russia, and against all odds, one frame from the roll of film inside has survived.
Nazi troops couldn't approach his trench. They killed